Peace can feel boring when chaos feels familiar. Sometimes a lot of us are so used to so much noise, chaos, and just fluff that's outside of us that can often take up our time and essentially fill up our silence so much that when it comes to being in peace and just being quiet and in silent spaces, that can actually feel uncomfortable. Because the thing about peace and silence, you're in a space where you have no choice but to sit with your thoughts. And oftentimes, if you're addicted to chaos and just noise and constantly filling up your brain with things outside of yourself, that solitude can feel uncomfortable. It has you in a space where you have no choice but to reflect on what's going on in here without any distractions. Sometimes our trauma and different patterns that happen when we were young and different things that we carry throughout adulthood might stick with us. And with that, we're so used to just the pattern of constantly being distracted by things that creates emotional highs and lows. So if you're always in a space where you're constantly essentially trying to fill your time up with something else, or if it's more comfortable being around noise than silence, you're never really giving your nervous system a chance to relax, to breathe, to just accept the peace that comes with solitude or just being silent. In order to get past that, you have to do different things to just allow yourself to sit with yourself. When's the last time you went to the park by yourself? When's the last time you went out and grabbed a bite to eat by yourself and just sat and enjoyed your own company with no phones, no distractions outside of you, just sitting and enjoying your time with you? That's important to kind of start to move past that addiction to chaos. Those little steps can help you move toward just simply being comfortable in your own skin. Being calm can feel really uncomfortable if you're simply not used to being calm. And I think a big part of that is you're not used to simply being, and just existing. And sometimes it's okay to be bored. It's okay to be in a space where you're like, all right, I'm just not going to do anything. I am going to take this time to stare at the wall, if that makes you happy. But the beauty of the boring and the sitting and doing nothing and just enjoying your own company, that's where you can start to really realize your thought process, really pay attention to those different things that you might have been avoiding internally because you were always so distracted or so used to the chaos and the noise outside of you. So, yes, that can be uncomfortable, but it is worth just trying it out sometime, because I feel like in today's day and age, we are at a point where distractions are at an all time high. We have access to our cell phones, to the internet, to the news, to all types of media outlets that's constantly coming at us 24/7, where we're always kind of on go and our nervous system is always heightened and we're always preparing for the next thing to distract us. Versus 50 years ago, for example, they didn't have that many distractions. So I felt like people were able to really get to know themselves more because of simply having the time and not having access to so many different distractions. And that can arguably be a good thing or a bad thing, but ultimately you got to get comfortable with being at peace, because that's where a lot of growth can happen. That's where that intentional healing can start to take place from trauma or different things that you've been avoiding because you've just simply been so distracted 24/7. So I know we all know people in our lives, and we could be those very people that are addicted to the noise and the chaos, where things can be going so well, everything can be at peace, but then we find different ways to shake things up because we're so used to that chaos kicking in for some type of excitement to happen. And that is a trauma response for always being surrounded by chaos and not being able to appreciate the peace at hand that you so well deserve. So even though you might be addicted to chaos, there are different things that you can do, actionable steps that you can take to rewire your brain to feel safe in stability. One of the things you can do is no phone time. Schedule a time throughout the day that you don't have your phone with you, whether that be right before bed, if that's a time in the morning, 10 minutes, 20 minutes, an hour, whatever the time that makes sense for you. Just start doing those little steps because that's going to allow you to have no choice but to sit with your thoughts, and while taking time off from your phone, go a step further. Make sure there's no TV on, no music, no nothing to really distract you from what's at hand and what deserves your attention, which is your mind, your peace, your brain, your nervous system. Those different things are small steps that you can do to just start taking heed and being more in tune with yourself. Another thing you can do is whenever you go for your walks, if you want to go for a walk around the corner, for example, turn off your phone. Put your phone in your pocket. Don't have on your headphones. Just be with yourself. Be present on that walk. Start to notice the houses that you walk past. Start to really listen to the sounds of the nature that's surrounding you, the birds chirping. All those little things are actionable steps that you can take to reconnect with yourself and rewire your brain to be okay with stability, to be comfortable with the boring or with the mundane. Those different aspects can help rewire you to just feel comfortable not having to have chaos in your life. Ultimately, being addicted to chaos is a trauma response to not feeling safe and not being comfortable in stability because you're so used to that survival mode and always happen to be surrounded by the noise and different things outside of yourself. So start taking those actionable steps because it doesn't always have to be that way. You can absolutely get to a space where you're completely comfortable with where you are and who you are. Remember who you are. Peace is something that you have to learn, not just find. You have to do those little things that's going to create a space of peace within your environment. Everyone's peace might look different. My peace and what is peaceful to me might not be as peaceful to you. So you have to find what makes sense for you to be at peace. Peace could absolutely mean silence, sitting down, reading a book with yourself and just getting to know yourself, getting engulfed into a new book, into a new story. Peace can look like, okay, I'm going to start incorporating meditation. Whatever that is for you, you have to do those steps to find. Try new things, figure out what brings you peace versus what you're used to, which might be bringing you chaos. Do what you got to do to make sure you find the peace that you are looking for because at the end of the day, if you don't have peace, what is this all about at the end of the day, Thank you guys so much for watching. If this message was right on time, go ahead, like, subscribe, turn on the notifications so you don't miss any more videos surrounding healing, empowerment, and just working through this journey called life together. Stay tuned for the next one.